Hey guys, it's Juanita Coley here, and I'm super excited to welcome you all to the Five9 Women in Technology Table Talk. Last time we were here in this space, I was sitting down, well, virtually in this space, I was sitting down with Juanita, okay, of Five9, the CMO, and we were doing the Five9 CX Summit, and I was super excited then. I'm super excited now because I'm joined by two more amazing ladies that are going to be talking about women in technology, and we're gonna be talking about a whole bunch of good stuff, okay? So a few months ago, I announced that I am going to be running for Miss Corporate America with the platform of normalizing women in technology and leadership roles. And in true Five9 fashion, Five9 unequivocally said, absolutely, we will help you spread the word and get your message out to the masses. So thank you so much, Five9. I appreciate you so much. Okay, but before we get into my Oprah talk, okay? I want to do some quick introductions, some fun introductions, okay? So I'm gonna have each of the ladies introduce themselves, give me your name, your title, and we have some fun questions. We're gonna make this fun, okay? Cool beans. All right, we'll start right here.
Sure, so Jennifer Murphy, I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Five9.
Jennifer, so we sent some questions out, and one of the questions that we asked was, what do you think, what is your kids, I actually have two, because I have to know the answer to the other question. How do your kids explain what you do?
My kids explain what I do. I make PowerPoints, I do hashtags, and I drink wine, because during 2020, when we all went to virtual events, there was lots of wine and cheese tasting. So at a Mother's Day card, that is how my 6-year-old son described what I do. PowerPoint, hashtags, and drink wine.
Hey, I need your job.
It's a good job. I think it sounds great, you know. That's the profile of a CMO.
Now, the other question that I could not pass up was, if you're a cartoon character, which one would you be?
Minnie Mouse.
Minnie Mouse, why?
Because Minnie Mouse has an awesome balance of independence. She does everything. She loves friendship. She loves helping people. But then she's also got her partner in crime, Mickey, and they're a good team together. So I love her independence, but also her sense of teaming as well with Mickey.
Okay, all right. We're here.
I'm maybe not as perky as Minnie, but...
I don't know. Some probably have to disagree. Yeah. All right, moving on.
Kimberly Kainen. I'm the General Counsel, Chief Compliance Officer, and Corporate Secretary at Five9. I get 3 hats.
Okay. We definitely have to dig into that. What cartoon character, I'm interested. I feel like this is a question I have to ask everybody, though. What cartoon character, if you had to pick one, would you be?
Definitely Wonder Woman.
Really?
Yes. I just have always admired the whole belt thing and the golden rope hanging from it and all kinds of tools she has on that belt. I love the flexibility that she represents, the strength. I love the concept of how she uses the rope to help people, because let's face it, everyone can use a hand every now and then and throw a rope to somebody when they need it. So that really inspires me, that whole concept.
I can imagine that. I saw your Tory Burch belt when you walked in. I was like, I noticed that.
It's all about the belt.
Yeah, it's all about the belt. So I can definitely imagine that. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for being with us. I'm super excited to dig into our talk. And last but definitely not least,
I'm Trisha Yankovich, Senior Vice President of the Human Resources function at Five9. And do you want me to tell you my favorite cartoon?
So, I do have the question, right? So what has the pandemic taught you? But I definitely do want to know your cartoon.
Yeah, taught me lots, actually. But I think one thing I learned that's top of the list is that the small things matter in life. The simple things, right? We all enjoyed just staying home and cooking and spending time with our family and having relationships and entertaining ourselves at home. So the small things matter. That's what I learned.
The small things definitely matter. The small things are really the big things. The small things are the important things. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. Cartoon character.
You know, I would probably pick Snoopy.
Snoopy.
I think Snoopy to me was always like kind and sweet and had like wisdom. And he also had a great imagination. Like, he was always trying to be something else, which I can definitely appreciate. Like, I would always I think about what am I going to be when I grow up. So, yeah, Snoopy would be.
Snoopy. Mine's is, I know people are going to be like, really, Juanita? It would be both of your Pinky and the Brain. Because I'm always thinking of like, how can we take over the world today? And I'm answering the question too. Like, today we're doing. So it's a little bit craziness going on up in here, but that would be my cartoon characters.
I like it.
All right, so again, today we're joined by these three fabulous ladies, Janefa, Kimberly, Trisha. Thank you again so much for taking the time. I mean, you could be anywhere and you decided to take the time to sit down and talk to me. So I am humbled and I appreciate it. Two big topics that I really want to tackle, right, while I'm on this tour and bringing other ladies into the conversation is future of work, right, and then women in non-traditional tech roles. So we're gonna dive into these topics, and so you'll see why we're starting here at Five9. So I don't think we can really do the topic about future in work justice without talking about the current state of work. I don't think we can talk about the future until we talk about where we currently are. And one of the terms that we keep hearing constantly right now, right, is Great Resignation. Great Resignation. We hear that over and over again. And I was doing some research. And I noticed that the two industries that were had the highest impact was healthcare, which I kind of expected. But then the next was technology. Those were the two that were highest impacted. And I said, are you seriously? Why do you think that is, Trisha?
Yeah, the healthcare one, I think, makes sense, right? That there's so much going on with the pandemic. And the technology piece, from my perspective, there's so much innovation happening and technology continues to speed up so quickly that there's creating this ton of growth, right, in many markets, right? And with that innovation and that speed of technology, there's a demand for talent. Companies are starting up and employees have basically multiple opportunities at any given moment to go do something different. And so, I think that technology is moving very fast. It's probably going to speed up more so. And I think, like, looking back historically, the speed of technology was a lot slower. And it's current day, it's just very quick, right? Things are changing and evolving and innovating very quickly.
Do you, and any of you ladies can answer this question, do you find that that's something that needs to be fixed, or is this just a natural progression of things?
I think it's both. I think it's the natural progression, and I also think that we need to invest in education and building pipelines of talent and thinking about that much sooner in the process of the pipeline. We were talking earlier today about getting women in technology and making that more of an educational opportunity of what those opportunities look like.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that we need to start thinking about the pipeline earlier. What do you, it's actually I love that you said that like that, because one of my very next questions is, what does the future of work look like? So when we think about the pipeline of building that pipeline, what does that look like? The obvious answer is probably to say, hey, we start with our youth, but how do we become more intentional about that?
Yeah, well, I think it's also about, like, what are the different roles and responsibilities, and where can technology be used to its best advantage, and where can people be used to their best advantage? As much as, and I love technology, there are certain things that humans are better at doing. Yeah. And technology hasn't evolved that way. And I think there's nothing wrong with looking at a blended environment and saying, how can I use both to the best advantage? And that takes a moment to take a step back and really say, what fits where? And then how do I build, career paths, for example, for people that takes advantage of technology, but also helps them to grow as individuals and build skills which can be unique and can be their core competency that technology might never catch up to, or might take some time to catch up to as well. So I think that's part of where it starts.
Yeah, just listening to you, Janefa, I think that we can learn a lot from our own kids and the way they're adapting to the speed of technology and how things are changing. Like recently, I was in my 9-year-old's classroom and I was watching them, and it was fascinating how they seamlessly would shift from one piece of technology, digital to analog, right there at their desk, real time. So they all have iPads already in their classroom in 4th grade. And the teacher would be out front, and she'd be verbally, in person now, thank goodness, they're all back to school in person. And the teacher would be teaching a lesson and speaking live to them. And they'd say, okay, now everybody take out your iPad and, tap on this icon, and they'd go on their iPad, they'd work on their icon, and then others without any instruction would just then go and grab a notebook from out of their desk and a pencil and start writing some notes, and they'd go back to the iPad, and then they would go chat with the neighbor, and they'd go break up in groups and work collaboratively in smaller teams, and then the teacher would come around and interact with them one-on-one. All of this was happening within minutes, literally within 10 minutes, all that was going on. And the kids didn't skip a beat. They were like, this is natural. I'm in the analog world, I'm in the digital world, and they go back and forth seamlessly. And I feel like the future of work is going to be similar, where people are going to walk in the door and there's going to be the need for the creative, for the deep thinker, for the analytical person in the meeting, for the coder. Like it's all going to be an amalgamation of greatness.
That's amazing. That's amazing because, Kimberly, I was doing a talk with someone, and we were talking about the future of work. We were talking about the Great Resignation, and we're also talking about the gig economy. And one thing that I personally like about the gig economy is that it allows people to perform at their highest, because this is what this part of the process I enjoy doing, and I like doing this, so I'm going to perform at my peak performance, right? Like, I don't have to worry about all of the other pieces that's wrapped around it. See, like in a traditional work setting, if I'm hired to be the CMO or legal counsel or, in HR, right, I have to think about all of the pieces that go with that. I have to be a supervisor. I have to manage. I can't just focus on legal. I can't just focus on the marketing, the creative part. I have to manage a team. Like, what if I don't like that part? What if I just want to create the graphics or right? So in the gig economy, that allows me to hone in on what it is that I actually want to do and be the best at that. And then if I like being an administrative, then I go and be a VA, right? I like the administrative pieces. And so one of the things that you're talking about with being able to move from analog to digital and the future of work being this whole piece, I think what we're going to see is a lot of gig economy type work that companies embody, right? Their workforce is made up of a lot of gig economy workers. Is what I can envision the future of work really looking like. What do you all think about the gig economy? I know some people are on the fence. Some people like it, and some people are like, no.
It's great. I mean, I think it takes things to a new level of flexibility, right? And I think that point that you made about it's okay to be really good at one thing if that's what you want to choose to do. I think sometimes there is pressure in the work environment to say, well, you have to have a T-shaped competency, you have to be able to do all of these things and understand all of these things. And sometimes you don't want to. Like, some of the greatest people I've had in my team are really good at, for example, operations, or they're really good at creative. Awesome. How can we help you to grow so you can be great at one thing and contribute incredibly well to a team? And so I think that's an opportunity for the gig economy. But how do you blend that also with teamwork and bringing all of those people together and that human connection as well? So there's a nuance to it that I think we've still got to figure out.
Yeah. I'm interested, Tricia, I know, because you're in HR, right? So I'm interested, what do you think about the gig economy and blending it all together?
Where we're headed, and what we're definitely seeing is that the way that the relationship that individuals have with their work is evolving. And we're going to someday, 25, 50 years, we're going to look back at this time as a pivotal moment where that relationship has changed. And I think the gig economy plays into that very well, where, we're having different types of, employees entering the workforce where they are very specific about what they want and what they want to do. And the gig economy certainly, helps them with that piece. And I think in that evolution, the human connection is going to be very valuable. Employees, gig workers, contractors, they're going to want to be seen as humans and not workers. And that's that evolution, I think, that we're focused on here at Five9, is really the human connection and recognizing everybody's authentic human self, right? And so from a gig economy perspective, we're going to have to figure out ways to really foster that, regardless of the type of employee or worker that you have in the workplace, right? Because you're going to have this blend of employees, gig workers, contractors, right? And the gig economy is going to help us meet our talent demands as well.
Yeah.
I really love what you're saying there, Tricia, and it makes me think about, maybe with my legal mindset, I feel like the employment contract is changing.
Absolutely.
Where, I'm old enough where I actually have parents who grew up in that generation, and grandparents where you worked for one company for 30
That's
to
right.
50 years.
Yeah.
And you didn't even think about leaving because they took care of you. They actually did have a human connection with their employees. They had a pension fund for you that they were investing in for you over decades. They gave you Christmas bonuses and holiday bonuses, and they cared about where your kids went to school and whether you could afford to send them to school, and they helped. I felt like they really knew their employees and had all these programs, not just financial, but just even, filling the emotional cup of their employees, where they really cared for them. Somehow we lost that through the late 70s and 80s, and trying to get it all done and cut costs. I feel like the contract flipped, and suddenly we were all just sort of nameless worker bees and told to go sit in that desk that I assigned to you, or a cubicle, it turned out to be. That was my first office space, a carpeted cubicle, and don't ask questions and do what you're told. And by the way, we may give you a 401k that you can contribute to, and we may give you health insurance, and good luck with all that. So I feel like the Generation Z and similar, the millennials even, are asking for more, and they deserve it. And I almost feel like it's like right sizing. It feels somewhat maybe of an earthquake for some of us in the Gen X here, but I actually think it's not so startling. It's actually, they're asking for the things that our grandparents and our great-grandparents got.
Right.
And somehow we took that away from our population.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing perspective. It's almost like what I was saying about how my full circle journey about, starting as an agent to, leveraging the technology. It's like full circle from what our parents and grandparents experienced in the workforce to now wrapping around to millennials. And we're not asking for anything different. We're asking for family time. We're asking for balance. We're asking for a company that pays us, what we're worth, benefits. But that's not
and that's probably why I think you see the Great Resignation, tech being one of the higher ones alongside healthcare, is because tech is very intense.
Yeah.
Tech is very, very intense. There's a ton of competition. Technology itself is evolving. There's always a new startup. There's always, if you have a team, you're always worried about, well, are they going to leave? How can I keep them engaged? They're going to go to this new startup, that new startup. And that's a lot to have to deal with, and so that's why having tech on one of the higher ones for the Great Resignation is not surprising, because I think people are just saying enough.
Yeah.
We need to find a proper integration or balance between all of these different things.
And And it's interesting, Kimberly, you bring up, back in the day when our grandparents worked for a company for 30, 40, 50 years and their needs were met and they had solid relationships, they had purpose.
Yes.
Purpose is another thing that's really lacking in today's, environment. And I think, we look at our employees and if it gets hard or they get challenged or their needs aren't met, they can easily jump ship and go somewhere else. Whereas back in the day, that wasn't the culture. Right? You stuck it through, your needs were more met, you had purpose in your role, and you were seen as a human being with a life outside of work. And so getting back to some of those things, I think that human connection is going to be really important, and purpose. And I'm not talking about a software company that has to suddenly become a purpose-driven company. I'm talking about helping employees really understand their personal purpose and how they're contributing to their company's purpose, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's incredibly valuable.
How they even align, because people are going to companies where my purpose really isn't separate from the companies that I'm working for's purpose. And so we find that we're in alignment. And so my work is that much more fulfilling.
And I think it depends where you are in your career as well, right? So the opportunity that the gig economy gives you, especially if you're earlier in your career, is lots of opportunity to work for different companies and experience different things. But, maybe, at a different point in your career, you want different things.
Yeah.
Right? You want a different set of experiences, a different set of purpose to drive you. And so I think it's all context based. I don't think there's any sort of one right or wrong answer.
Yeah, that's amazing. Man, so the future of work, I mean, there's so many themes floating through that, right? Human, purpose, being able to be good at and valued at what you're good at, It's so many different themes, I think, that go into future of work. But when I'm kind of listening to you ladies, if I were to summarize that, it would be, people want to be heard. They want to feel good about the work that they're doing, and they want to they want to have a sense of purpose, that goes beyond just the mission statement, right? It's more so like, this is what I feel purposed about in life, and as by the way, the company that I work for actually has this same similar purpose, so we can do this, type of thing. That's what I think, if I were to summarize in a very short time frame, the future of work, that's what I think I would take away from that piece. When we talk about women in non-traditional tech roles, that's the next big topic that I wanted to tackle. Right, so women in non-traditional tech roles. And when I say that, people are always like, why do you put such emphasis on non-tech, non-traditional? And I actually do it intentionally, right? Because I think women in technology, when we talk about that, automatically we put on our coder hat, or we put on our systems engineer hat, or something that we would assume is technology focused or based. However, I think women in technology is such a much larger conversation than, I don't want to say just being a coder or just being a system engineer, but I think you can do so much more in women in technology and in technology field than being a coder or system engineer. So I'm always making that distinction when I talk about women in non-traditional tech roles, because I believe it is our job to shed more light on women in tech companies that are helping to push those companies forward, and they don't write a piece of code, right? They're not system engineers, but their role is critical, and without their role, the company wouldn't be able to make as massive impacts as they probably do. And so I'm super passionate about talking about women in non-traditional tech roles. So I'm super excited, Kimberly, with your background in legal. So I have a load of questions.
Okay, make sure my belt's on for this.
First question that you'll answer, right? First question, okay. Do you consider yourself a woman in technology?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So we went in there. Okay, all right. So you do consider yourself a woman, because it's interesting, that you say that, because a lot of women that I talk to that work at tech companies, so I have the show Call Center Chronicles, and so I'm interviewing women all the time that are in tech companies and different things like that, and I say, do you consider yourself a woman in tech? And they're like, I never thought about that. No, I mean, I do work for a tech company, but I've never considered myself a woman in tech.
That surprises me.
Yes.
Wow, maybe I didn't get the memo, but I can tell you from probably the age of 24, 25, I considered myself a woman in technology because I worked for a law firm who happened serendipitously to have many, many clients that were technology companies. So my first early clients in my mid-20s were companies based in Japan, whether it was Toshiba or Epson, or based right here in the United States, like Borland Computers in the old days, and even a technology company, which some of us don't think of as tech, but was tech, is Levi Strauss, for example, is one of my early clients. They have one of the first patents in America. For example, they were highly, highly attuned to technology as a garment company in the 90s. And so I've always thought of myself as a woman in technology because I'm supporting and enabling these technology companies to achieve their purpose.
Right. I mean, I get it. I think that, all of the roles that power companies, like power these companies forward, if you're a woman and you're working there, you're a woman in tech. Like, that's the way my brain works. But I talk to countless women all the time, and they're like, how do I get in tech? And I'm like, you're at Microsoft. You're in tech already. Let's come talk about this. But, I think it's because women in tech, again, is overshadowed a lot by coding and different things like that. Mm-hmm. And when I think about, how I usually relate these two is I think about Catherine, right? Catherine from Hidden Figures. She wasn't an astronaut, right? But if it wasn't for her contributions, right, then John Glenn would have never made it to the moon, right? So we can consider her part of the NASA program, part of all of the things that made NASA what it is, part of the initiative to get to the moon. So when I think about women in tech, and I think about, legal, and I think about HR, I think about marketing, all of those things are inlets to getting involved in technology. And I think unless we start to have more conversations with women that are in marketing, women that are in legal, women that are in, and what does that look like? What does your day-to-day role look like? And how do you support these big companies? Then we won't have more dialogue around the traditional role of being a coder. And we'll lose a whole generation that could have probably been a creative in a tech company or different things like that. So I'm super passionate about having those conversations. So my question, Janefa, what do you think, because I'm super interested from a marketing perspective, how do you think we reach more women, youth, young adults, girls, children, right, to make them say, like, have that correlation to say, hey, I want to get involved in technology, and that doesn't necessarily have to mean coding. It could if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there are two sides to it. I think one, I'm a big believer in role models, right? Being able to see other people in roles that you aspire to, whether that be coding or it be non-coding roles as well. And then I think the other thing is sort of demystifying what does it mean to be in tech?
Yeah.
Right? It is the only definition of you're a woman in tech if you can code, or is it enough to have an appreciation, an understanding for technology and what it can do and how it can change things? So I think that's the other thing as well is sort of there's this connotation that in order to be in tech you have to be able to code, or but you can equally have an appreciation for and an understanding of, yes, don't get me wrong, it's much easier to do it if you've been there and done it and done hands-on yourself. So I think those are the two sides, but I do believe in the power of role models and being able to, look at others and say, hey, that's what I want to be. Hey, someone else has done it before, so it's possible that I can do it as well.
Yeah, demystifying. That stuck out to me
Yeah.
a lot. Like demystifying what it means to even be in tech. What is
Make your own definition of what it means to
Yeah.
be in tech. Why should somebody else get to define what that means?
Yeah.
Right? You know, can you say that because I haven't written code in 15 or 20 years that I'm not in tech? That seems unfair.
Right.
Right? I've spent the past, 15 plus years in technology, learning about technology evolutions, working on digital transformations, all of those different things. But because I haven't, written a line of code in a long time, does that mean that I'm not a technologist?
That's really good. That's really good. Trisha, do you consider yourself a woman in tech? Like and if you do, like when did that, because I originally didn't. I didn't originally consider myself a woman in tech until, I guess, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or so. But my entire career has been spent in contact center and leveraging technology. So I had a light bulb moment, and it was like, you're a woman in tech. You're teaching companies how to use the tech. Like, what do you mean, Juanita? So and that really kind of opened a lot of doors because I began to start to understand more about who and what it was that I did and the impacts that it made. So I'm always interested in women that are in non-traditional roles, like HR. When did the light bulb moment happen for you or was it always on?
Yeah, I think the light bulb went off. One of my first jobs in tech was a database software company in Menlo Park, California. And I was in recruiting, so I was hiring technical people. And so you have to have a skill set to learn the tech role to be able to recruit and hire people. And then, being in human resources across all those disciplines, you're either hiring technical people or you're helping develop technical people, coach technical leaders. So, I think what I've always thought women should really embrace is the authenticity of they bring their strengths to whatever role they're in. So if I'm going to be in HR or legal or marketing, I'm going to bring my expertise to that role because you're solving big problems in most companies, right? Technical related or people related, but you're bringing your specialized skill set into that tech space to solve those challenges. And you're working alongside technical people. And so from a people perspective, from an HR perspective, I have to understand how to partner with other leaders to solve their human resource, human capital, people challenges related to technology and helping a tech company grow. So, I think embracing your expertise, whatever field you choose to be an expert in, whether it's marketing and creative or legal, and bringing that to the space. But I'll also say diversity of thought is really important in tech. And when you have particularly women giving feedback and their opinion and their perspectives on technology, you're opening up lots of doors to innovation because it's a different way of thinking. And so if a lot of product leaders would engage with a lot of different levels in the organization and gender, different genders, they would get feedback that's going to help them innovate differently. And so as women, embrace your super skill of having a different perspective in the room. It's incredibly valuable.
That's amazing.
We tend to ask questions, I think, more and be curious. For me, key piece of advice in terms of expanding how people think about women in technology or any person in technology is don't be intimidated. Ask a question. Be curious. Bring that curiosity. One of the early experiences I had in technology is when I made the shift out of the law firm into a technology company, Sun Microsystems. And Sun would have these things called Sun Lab Days. And it would just be in a particular section of our campus, and the whole office was open, and all the engineers would just be hanging out, showing off their little new gizmo or their new technology or their new approach. And it was literally like a fair, almost like a carnival. And you would just, anyone, it was like open house. Like you just came in, you'd go walk up to that desk, start chatting with the engineer. And man, I'm sitting here in legal, I'm supposed to be like doing sales contracts, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to that. And it was amazing, because like you would just walk up, and I was not afraid to ask like these, 20-year veteran engineers. Some of them were very famous and well known. I'd be like, hey, so what is this Java thing? Like, tell me, like, why is it a big deal? And literally they would just like, start talking to me, and you'd be surprised how much people love to talk about what they're an expert in. And they didn't make me feel stupid. They didn't make me feel ignorant or that I wasn't, a technologist. They were super excited to share what they knew about this thing that was going on. Yeah. So to me, that's like a key, is don't be embarrassed or shy or think you're too ignorant to ask a question.
Everyone has a role to play, right? Everyone
Absolutely.
can contribute in different ways, whether it's we communicate in different ways, as Trisha was saying, or whether we bring a different skill to the table. And I think, what Kimberly said, don't be intimidated, right? People hear tech and they're like, oh, well, if I don't know the latest about all of the latest technology and, I haven't, coded an app recently in my spare time, then I can't possibly get involved in a tech discussion. Well, you can learn, you can contribute in different ways. And I just think that's so important, because sometimes that it's not always presented that way. Right. It's sort of presented like, the technology is the elite part and only a certain few can get involved in that. And that's not the case. Everyone has a role to play, and diversity is such a beautiful thing when it comes together, and it makes things so much better.
Amazing. That is, like, I think it gives a sense of hope to women that are coming into the industry, to know, that, hey, I don't have to be again, I love me a good line of code. I love coding, right? I actually play these coding games with my kids and different things like that, because they take these coding classes in school. So I'm like, oh, this is super cool, right? But I think that if we want to shift a culture, shift a generation to say, hey, we want more women involved in technology, it starts with having those types of conversations, to not be intimidated, ask the questions, and know that you can contribute in any kind of capacity, right? Your contributions matter. Yeah,
I'm breaking down what tech is, right? Because also, like my husband, he's a technologist, he's an engineer, and what's it about? It's about logic, it's about reason, it's about rationale, it's about all of those, and those are skills.
That's so good,
right? That people have that you can learn. Right, and that you can learn to engage with and interact with and contribute to and play off of in different ways, and that's that's not something to be scared of or to be worried about. It's something to embrace.
Yeah, and Trisha, you alluded to that earlier when you were talking about, you didn't say this word, but it made me think of transferable skills, right? Leveraging those skills that you already have to get involved in technology.
Yep.
Well, thank you ladies so much. I have to ask this question. I just believe that Five9 gets it. You guys have been with me on my journey so far, and I'm always talking about Five9 because I believe that they just get it. I love the technology. I love the leadership. I love every time I get a chance to talk to Janefa and now you ladies, Trisha, Kimberly, amazing, amazing, amazing time spent. Definitely valuable, just awesome. I have to ask though, if you were to give me a piece of advice about the future of work, what I'm doing about trying to take message to the masses about the future of work, women in technology, and even building my organization, what would be that piece of advice?
There's a few things that come to mind, but I think authenticity, be yourself, own who you are, and don't doubt yourself. Bring your skills and your talents. Everybody's talented. And so I love to think about that, because sometimes people are in the wrong role. and their talents aren't shining. Everybody's talented. Figure out what your talent is and be completely authentic in who you are.
It's great. That's awesome.
Because it will be easy, right? And it will feel good because you're authentic.
Thank you so much, Trisha.
Yeah.
That is such powerful advice. I think what comes to mind for me is, you hear a lot about follow your passion. And sometimes, as a mom of teenagers, that can be very overwhelming. Like, oh my God, I don't know if I have a passion. What should it be? And my advice is a little different. My advice is pick something. Don't get so caught up with trying to find your passion. Pick a thing. Pick a thing that may even be modestly interesting to you, or that you think is going to be relevant in the future, or for the future of work, or for the future of technology. Something that you think will be useful. And focus your entire energy on that one thing. Put your whole mind on it. Wake up every morning, think about it, breathe it, actually imagine it embodying your entire self. And you will become the best in the world at that one thing. And you'd be surprised at the journey that takes you on. You'll find your passion through that one thing.
That's powerful. That is powerful for sure. That has been, for me, my last 6 or 12 months. It's been just like super uberly focused on, how do we annihilate the user adoption gap, right? Which is why we use such graphic, right? That's like such, this term, to annihilate the user adoption gap between technology and the user. How do we do that? Like, how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we get more women involved in technologies? And that has been all consuming for my life. So thank you so much, Kimberly, for that advice. Jennifer?
Well, it's hard to follow. I think for me, it's don't doubt yourself and keep going, right? Because especially I think when you're doing what you're doing, which is trying to get a point of view out there and trying to send a message, sometimes it can be disheartening. Say you do something on social and no one likes it, or no one engages with you, or no one replies to the email that you send to try and get someone engaged, and then it can make you feel doubt. But you have to have that belief, that internal belief that what you're doing is the right thing to do. It's the right direction that you're trying to go in, and just be so determined and don't let doubt, build distrust within yourself, and just keep on going. Nothing's ever going to be simple. Nothing's ever going to be easy. Nothing is very rarely a straight and simple path.
Yeah.
So you just have to embrace those hurdles and keep plowing on.
That's amazing. And I think that even ties into what Trisha is saying about authenticity, right? Like when you are at your core being authentically you, right? And you've picked that thing, right? Then when self-doubt and all of those things do try to creep up, you're like, nope, I'm back focused. This is my who I am at core, and this is my thing I picked, right? So I'm going to focus in and block out the extra noise.
Yeah,
right?
there'll always be naysayers, there'll
always
always be hurdles, there'll always be noise, but you have to have that focus, that determination, that belief, that self-belief that is what, is the right thing to be doing, and just keep driving it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you so much, Trisha. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much, Five9, for hosting me and my team. Until next time, bye guys.